The MotoGP paddock thrives on surprises. Nicolo Bulega to replace Marc Marquez at Ducati for the final two MotoGP races of the season. It's the kind of news that doesn't just ripple through the sport, it creates waves. Because when a name like Marc Marquez, a 9-time world champion, a living legend, steps aside, and a young, hungry rider steps in to fill that seat, the implications are huge. For Ducati, for Bulega, and for MotoGP itself. For fans, the announcement was unexpected, yet fascinating. Marc Marquez had been sidelined before due to injuries, but this time it carried a different energy. Not just a pause, but a passing of the torch, even if temporary. For Nicolo Bulega, it's the opportunity of a lifetime. For Ducati, it's a statement of faith in their next-generation talent. Marc Marquez's absence from the final two races comes after an exhausting and physically taxing season. Having already clinched his 9th World Championship earlier in Japan, Marquez had been racing through pain and recovery, his body paying the price for a year that demanded everything. A shoulder injury sustained at the Australian Grand Prix forced him to the sidelines. And while the world hoped for a miraculous recovery, Ducati made the call to prioritize his health and to give a rising star a shot at the big stage. Enter Nicolo Bulega, the 25-year-old Italian, currently one of Ducati's brightest talents in World Superbike, has been knocking on MotoGP's door for years. Known for his fluid style, calm demeanor, and precise racecraft, Bulega isn't just fast. He's intelligent. His performances in World Superbike, especially his ability to adapt to the Panigale's evolving setup, have impressed Ducati's top brass. And now, the opportunity has arrived. For most riders, replacing Marc Marquez would be overwhelming. The name alone carries weight. But Bulega isn't stepping into the factory seat to replace a legend. He's stepping in to honor one, and to show that the future of Ducati is in good hands. Behind closed doors, Ducati's decision wasn't impulsive. Team manager Gigi Dall'Igna and sporting director Mauro Grassilli spent weeks assessing options. They could have brought in a seasoned test rider or borrowed a substitute from within MotoGP's grid. But they didn't. They chose youth. They chose promise. They chose a rider who represents the spirit of Ducati's next generation. Fearless, composed, and ready for pressure. For Bulega, the call came quietly, but hit like thunder. It was the message every racer dreams of. An invitation to the premier class, not as a test or wildcard, but as a full-fledged replacement for one of the greatest riders in history. He reportedly received the news during a private meeting in Bologna, and within hours, preparations were already underway. The emotions were mixed: excitement, disbelief, and focus all at once. As Bulega later admitted, "It's impossible not to feel pressure, but I'm ready. Ducati believes in me, and that means everything." His story is one of resilience. Once a Moto3 and Moto2 regular, Bulega's early career was marked by inconsistency. He showed flashes of brilliance, but struggled to find rhythm in the chaotic midfields of the lower classes. When he shifted to World Superbike under the Ducati umbrella, many saw it as a step back. But for Bulega, it was rebirth. In World SBK, he rediscovered his confidence, learned to harness Ducati's power, and developed the consistency that MotoGP teams crave. And now, that evolution brings him full circle. Back to the grand stage. As the news spread, fans immediately began comparing this moment to historic call-ups in MotoGP history. The arrival of Casey Stoner, the rise of Jorge Lorenzo, and even Marc Marquez's own debut. All moments when opportunity met destiny. Could Bulega be the next name to rise from obscurity to legend? The context, however, makes this debut even more compelling. Ducati isn't a team in crisis. They're a team at the peak of their power. The Desmo Zedici is the most competitive machine on the grid. Refined, balanced, and brutally efficient. For a rookie to step in at this level means learning on the edge of perfection. In the garage, the atmosphere will be electric. Mechanics who have spent all season tuning Marc Marquez's bike will now adjust it for a new rider, a new body shape, a new style. Every click of suspension, every tire choice, every fuel map, all recalibrated to suit Bulega's touch. And that's where the challenge truly lies. MotoGP isn't just about speed, it's about adaptation. The leap from Superbike to MotoGP is enormous. The electronics, the tires, the aerodynamics, the braking forces. Even the way the bike breathes on the straight is different. Many great riders have stumbled when crossing that gap. But Bulega's calm intelligence might be his greatest weapon. Observers in the paddock know that Ducati wouldn't risk their image on a gamble. If Bulega has been chosen, it's because his data, attitude, and feedback prove he can handle the step. And Ducati isn't expecting miracles. They're expecting composure. They want to see how he handles pressure, how he communicates with engineers, how he reacts when the world's cameras turn toward him on race day. The first of the two races will be in Qatar, a track of lights, shadows, and desert wind. For rookies, it's both dazzling and disorienting. The second will be in Valencia, Spain, a circuit that rewards precision and punishes mistakes. Two drastically different tests, two chances to prove that he belongs. The world will watch every lap, every corner, every gesture, because this isn't just a debut, it's an audition. For Marc Marquez, watching from recovery, the sight of his red Ducati without him aboard will sting. But knowing Marc, he'll be rooting for the man who takes his place. Because beneath the competition, there's a deep respect among racers. A shared understanding of how fragile and fleeting these moments can be. And make no mistake, Marc will be back. His comeback stories are legendary. But this time, the focus shifts briefly to another chapter in Ducati's ongoing dominance. The emergence of a new Italian rider, ready to carry the flame. It's poetic, really. Ducati, Italy's pride, now handing their most powerful weapon to another young Italian. In Bulega, they see a reflection of their own DNA, passion, precision, and potential. As Bulega's preparations intensify, his training regimen becomes a blur of laps. Simulator sessions and feedback meetings, every hour counts. The Ducati engineers work closely with him, studying how he approaches corners, how he brakes, how he applies throttle. They know he won't ride like Marc Marquez, no one does. But they're eager to see how his own rhythm interacts with the Desmosedici's character. And that's where the real story unfolds. Because this isn't about replacing Marc Marquez. It's about discovery, about what happens when a young rider is given a chance to taste the pinnacle of speed, to experience the raw violence of a MotoGP machine under the floodlights. In Bulega's eyes, there's no fear, only opportunity. "I'm not here to prove I'm Marc," he said in a brief interview. "I'm here to prove I'm Nicolo." It's the perfect mindset, because MotoGP doesn't reward imitation. It rewards authenticity. Every great rider who's left a mark on the sport did so by being themselves. Rossi, Lorenzo, Stoner, Marquez, all unique, all uncompromising. If Bulega can find that same identity, even in just 2 races, he'll earn more than points. He'll earn respect. Meanwhile, the fan base is divided. Some see this as a test, others as a marketing move. A few skeptics call it premature, but that's the beauty of MotoGP. You never truly know until the lights go out. When that moment arrives, and Bulega lines up on the grid surrounded by the giants of the sport, the enormity of the situation will hit him. The smell of fuel, the thrum of the engines, the tension that only exists in those last 5 seconds before launch. It's intoxicating. And somewhere in the pit wall, the Ducati team will hold their breath. Not in doubt, but in pride, because whatever happens next, this is Ducati doing what they've always done best, betting on the future. As the final 2 races of the season approach, one narrative ends and another begins. Marc Marquez, the relentless champion, takes a moment to heal. Nicolo Bulega, the quiet talent, steps into the storm. 2 men at different points in their journey, both defined by the same fire. MotoGP has always been a story of transitions. Legends passing the torch, rookies rising from nowhere, teams reinventing themselves to chase the next 1/10 of a second. And in this moment, all those threads intertwine. If Bulega performs well, even modestly, the door to MotoGP 2026 swings wide open. The paddock will take notice, rival teams will circle, and Ducati's investment in youth will be vindicated. But beyond results, what fans will remember is the emotion, the courage to take the leap, the humility to learn, and the audacity to believe you belong among the world's fastest. As the sun sets on another dramatic MotoGP season, Ducati's garage tells 2 stories. One of recovery, one of rise. Marc Marquez healing for another fight, and Nicolo Bulega stepping into a moment that could change his life. And maybe that's what makes this announcement so special. It's not just about who's leaving or who's arriving. It's about what it represents. Continuity, evolution, hope. The unbroken chain of talent that keeps MotoGP alive. Because for every champion who steps away, there's always a new name ready to take the handlebars and chase glory. This time, that name is Nicolo Bulega. And no matter what the scoreboard says at the end, one thing is certain: Ducati and the world will be watching.